back with Real with Omar. Today's guest is somebody I've never actually done business with, but we met a few years ago, like 1 or 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was at that
right?
event.
He was on a panel of an organization that I was organizing a power panel. We asked him beyond. He did us a favor of doing it. And I like what he said there. And I've been keeping my eye on him during the last couple of years with what he's doing. And I thought he would be a really fresh insight to have on this show. So without further ado, Bryan Dale, eXp Realty?
eXp Realty.
eXp Realty. Glad to have you here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Lewis. Pleasure's mine.
So Bryan, I like your story, so I want to go into it. When did you start real estate, and what did you do before that? Because I remember the story, but I want the listeners to hear.
So I started in real estate towards the end of 2013. This was like December, November. Before real estate, I was in the moving and storage industry.
Okay.
So at the time, before I got into real estate, I was working at a moving and storage company, right? So I was doing truck rentals, truck sales, storage rentals. At the same time, I also had my own moving business, right?
So you were working someplace and you had your own business?
And I had my own business, and I was going to school.
And you were going to school?
And I was going to school, right? So in doing the three of them, it was like very little rest, right? But I was, that was 19 through about...
You're young.
I had energy, exactly. So the way my days would start is a lot of times my moving jobs would be early in the morning. So I'd go there with a couple of the guys, usually a couple of buddies of mine, right? And we'd all kind of split it, pay them. And we'd start wrapping up people's furniture, moving it down, moving it into the truck, right? Then it would get to be about 1 p.m. in the afternoon, and I'd have to go into my job, leave my guys on the job site. And I'd work at my job from 2 o'clock to about 8 o'clock at night. Some of these moving jobs, when you're moving like a big 3-bedroom house, they go for hours and hours.
Right.
So a lot of times I would leave my job at 8 o'clock, go to the job site, and then help them finish. So it was literally like nonstop from 6 in the morning all the way up until like 10 o'clock at night.
Wow.
With some of these jobs, long days. And I would take on more jobs on my off days from work. So sometimes I would have 2 or 3 jobs back to back. And then I would go to school 3 days a week. So I was going down to community college in Manhattan. And when I was going to school, it wasn't really because I had a specific major I wanted. It was more like everybody telling me that's what I should do. But long story short, I realized that school wasn't for me. And on the day of my final exams, I decided to take a moving job as well instead.
Instead of taking
my final exam after 2 years of being in school. So at the time, I continued doing the moving and my storage job. And eventually it just became burnout. And I realized with almost all these moving jobs, there was always a realtor involved. Right. And the realtor would always come by, congratulations, here's a bottle of wine, gone. Meanwhile, I was busting my ass moving couches
sweating
up six flights of stairs.
Sweating through the whole house.
Sweating through the whole house and working a job, right? To make ends meet in New York City because I moved out at a young age, right? So
just to clarify, 19 years old, living on your own already?
Yes.
2 jobs and school?
Yeah.
Okay.
And school.
Just to give context to the hustle.
Exactly. So I decided to go for my real estate license because I saw the realtor there at every job, and it was kind of something that I was able to kind of relate to what I was doing already because the moving and storage industry kind of ties into real estate in a way. Right. We were just a different component. So decided to get my real estate license. And so got my license. I stopped doing the moving jobs, and I just was working my job, right? First year in real estate, I closed an impressive 2.5 deals.
Real quick, can I ask you, is it okay, where did you work your first year?
My first year, I was at a small mom and pop brokerage.
In the Bronx?
In the Bronx.
Okay.
Put more miles and gas on my car than probably all the other years, and I only closed 2 deals. Made like $5,000 my first year, right? Ready to quit the business at the end of my first year. I mean, I was literally, my broker basically had a Zillow account. And was giving us buyer leads from the Zillow account, and he said every one of them is closable. Go out there, good luck.
Make it happen.
Right, make it happen. Right. I wasn't taught to pre-qualify the leads.
Right.
Wasn't taught to really see if there was any motivation. So I was just going out.
You weren't taught the psychology of the business at all. You just told here's data. make it
Here's
happen.
data, run around.
Right.
And the real estate course doesn't teach you how to actually get business. It teaches you the laws.
Yeah, the rules of engagement.
What not to do. Yeah,
Right,
exactly. So long story short, I was working at my job, running out the door on my lunch breaks to show properties, and
To anybody you got in the Zilli.
anybody I got from the Zilli. Yeah, you're at the property, you could be there in 10 minutes, I'll be there. Right? So at the end of my first year, the business I was working for, the real estate business, actually closed down. And so I was forced to leave, right? I was forced to leave, and I ended up joining a big company, right, at the time. And in that company, I started seeing a lot of the other agents. There was a lot more productivity there.
And you were seeing what they were doing? You were kind
So
of
they were
taking
doing,
notes? Right.
and a lot of the more productive agents would always get on the phones every day and call homeowners. So that's what I started doing. So my second year, I really started picking up the phone and getting out of my shell.
Let me ask you one question. So you're at this new place, you see what they're doing, and the question becomes, did you ask them, hey, what are you doing? Or you just visually just kind of mimicking?
Yeah, I kind of saw it visually, mimicking. I could say at the time I was a little uncomfortable talking to the bigger agents at the time because I was newer, and I think that's something that a lot of newer agents go through is where they're a little afraid to go ask the bigger agents
intimidated,
what they're doing, right? But the brokerage had classes, and it was an environment where I could still see what these agents were doing.
Right.
So long story short, I started picking up the phone and calling expired listings. At the time, I didn't really have much money for any of these fancy systems. So I'd go on the MLS. I'd find the person's name. I'd go on white pages, yellow pages.
You really reverse engineer the deal.
Yeah.
Right?
Look up all the stuff. Look up all the phone numbers, and I'd call each one of them one by one with a desk phone, right?
Wow.
Didn't have a dial or anything. But it started to pay off because not too many people were doing it.
So you started getting listings that
I started
way?
getting listings that way.
Okay.
And then towards the latter half of my second year, by closing one or two of the listings that I got, I was able to invest in a dialer and invest in a service that actually gives us the data.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So
your second year, how many deals did you close?
So my second year, I closed 6 deals.
Nice. Okay.
Right?
Trend is upward. Okay.
Third year, I closed 21 deals.
Nice.
Fourth year, I closed 36 deals. And the fifth year, I closed 51 deals.
Wow.
So, and really what it was is it's nothing really special about myself. It's really the fact that I made a habit out of each day calling, getting on the phones and calling. I was still working at my job up until the end of my second year in real estate. So the fact that...
You're still part-time?
Yeah, I was part-time.
Right.
Almost full-time. It was about 36 hours a week.
Wow.
So I was going in at 2 o'clock. So what that did is it almost forced me to go to the office at 8, 9 in the morning and get on the phones until 1:30.
And having a time limit, I believe, not to cut you off, but I do want to talk about it. Having like a set time domain creates a sense of urgency, and if you notice, like for the right personality, my personality works like this, and I think yours does too. Where I know I only have 3 hours, I write it all down. It got to get done.
Gotta get done.
So all of a sudden you're not looking at SportsCenter. You're not you're focused in. And it's all you got. Yeah, all you have. Yeah, I think that helps. It helps certain people. Other people just get so overwhelmed that they don't have that much time, that they think about it so much they don't do anything.
I mean, I had to do it. I didn't have a choice because by quitting the moving jobs, I lost a source of direct income. And all the real estate stuff, I mean, let's face it, when you're calling homeowners, you're working in the future. You're not working for now. You're working for paychecks that are going to come in 90 days or 6 months from now. So in quitting the moving business, I became behind on my rent. I ended up actually owing my dad a lot of money. He was harassing me about it, behind on all my credit cards. My credit got bad. And so I had to do it. I didn't have a choice. It was either that or go back to moving stuff upstairs.
And you don't want to.
I didn't want to do that because school wasn't for me. I literally had no other option but to make this work. So it kind of forced me to get out of my shell and talk to homeowners and get better at it. That's one thing that I had to learn, is to get better at it and practice.
What was the first thing that you felt like you had to improve on? Well, like in the beginning, what you were confident in terms of talking to them?
It all starts with confidence. I mean, confidence is probably the foundation of someone who's prospecting.
And sales.
And sales, because they could hear it through the phone. They could hear the confidence in your voice.
Yeah.
The second thing was learning the scripts, knowing what to say to people, right?
Having rebuttals ready.
The rebuttals and the objection handlers, all that stuff ready. And third was actually putting in systems in place to follow up with people. My second year, what I learned works from other agents was like writing note cards. Write a note card to the homeowner after you have a conversation with them. Send a text message to the homeowner with a picture of your business card after the conversation, and then make sure that you're scheduling the follow-up calls. The reason why most agents who call don't get the business they want is because they don't follow up. Most agents will hear a no, and they won't explore the opportunity any further. They won't call that person again in the future. And I could say probably 80% of the business that I've gotten has been on the follow-up end. It's not people who I call the first time and they say, come to my house the next day.
It's called rollover.
Yeah,
right?
it's rollover.
It's not a rollover. Like if somebody, they just roll over. Oh, yeah, I want to do the deal. Oh, great.
I mean, they come every now and then, the rollovers.
Right, once in a while. Right.
But if you're going for 50 units a year or even 100 units a year, you have to acknowledge that most of that's going to come from hard work and follow-up.
Yeah, people don't understand that there's so much noise. I use that metaphor a lot. There's so much noise, and even like in a prospective homeowners, they want to sell it. You call them on a Monday, they might be dealing with something there. Their wife might be upset at them, the kid, something happened, their dog died. But on Thursday, if they get a follow-up for you, that could be the difference where they're like, you know what? They get some clarity and they're like, yo, I got to sell. I got to get out. I want to go to Florida. I want, like all this, but to stay top of mind was what brings back the follow-up where like, that's where you have to be on top of everything. I think that's where social media becomes very important too.
It does. Absolutely. And I think that one thing, if I can give one piece of advice to any agent that's calling, especially a new agent, is never take anything personally in this business, ever. Because the minute...
You mean that from homeowners as well as other agents, like
everything.
Just everything.
Everything.
Right.
Everything. Because the minute you take it personally, what you're doing is you're amplifying a negative aspect of the situation in your mind.
Right.
And that's going to stop you from doing what you need to do to be productive. For example, you're making a call and you're making calls, you're on a roll, you made 15 calls, and now somebody tells you to go screw yourself, right? And they said something really nasty to you. Now you have one or two options. You could take it personally, and if you take it personally, chances are you're going to get off the phone.
It's going to derail you.
It's going to derail you.
Right.
You're not going to feel like calling anymore. You're going to stop what you're doing. But if you don't take it personally and you just think of it as a statistic, you know what? 0.01% or 1% of the people that I'm going to call are going to tell me to screw myself. It's just a fact. It's just part
of the game.
It's part of the game. It's the law of averages, right? Then you're going to be in a lot better space to keep moving on. And it works the same way with interactions with agents in the marketplace. The reality is, we want to have good relationships with our peers, but not every agent out there is going to be have the same standards that we do, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Another agent
One of my agents was going through that last week. He's like, yo, I can't believe this. I was like, yo, because you're used to working here, and that's how we do it here. Over there, who knows how they do it, right? So they're like,
exactly.
They don't pick up the phone. They not to cut you off, but I want to inject that this is real life. This is happening every day to different people.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And the minute you take it personally, it stops you from doing what you have to do to get to the next step.
Yeah. It takes you off of productivity, delays you. Let me ask you a question. So now that you're what in the business?
This is, so I started at the end of 13. So let's just say 14. This is year 7 for me.
All right, year 7. All right. So where do you think, what part of your career have you stopped working so much for commission? Because there's a transition part where everybody kind of changes their mindset. Where you stop working for like your integrity, your legacy, your reputation, all that becomes more important than the commission. Because we both run over crazy deals. We were talking about deals off camera that we can't put on camera. We'll just put it that way, right? So it gets that crazy. When do you feel that you change, or did you start that way? Well, some people they have to make money, right? So, but there's also ethics and morality involved.
Right, absolutely. Well, to be honest, when I was behind on my rent and my car payment and my credit cards, and I owed my parents money, then yeah, I was working for money because I had no other choice, right? But I think that the very minute that I didn't need the money so much anymore, and I was probably going in my second year, and it's really the year I took off, is where I started working for relationships. Because I started to realize about 3 years into it, that a lot of the listings and the business that I was getting was people who I built a relationship with over time. And that really showed the value of building the relationship. And you spoke about the rollover listings, right? Where they just say,
yeah, I want to do it.
I want to do it, where it's easy, right?
Yeah.
But most of the time, unless you build relationships with people, you're not going to get those listings. Those listings, which are rollover listings, come when your reputation precedes you. When somebody speaks really great about you and sends a referral, mostly a past client who worked with you and really liked what you do.
And that's a direct result from just doing good business.
Doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And it's not really about the money. It's really about, just doing the best at what you do.
The money's going to come, right?
Money's going to come regardless.
We're in the industry. There's set numbers. There's minimum, maximum amounts and all that. But so if you look at it that way, the money's going to come. But I want to talk about something also. So if you're building your business with the relationship at the forefront, there's something that people don't sometimes talk about, which is the lifetime value of a client. And the lifetime value of a client means this. You did something right for him in the beginning. He's going to eventually, maybe, or she will end up selling that home, buying another home. Their sister or brother, like, who did that for you? Oh, he did. Bryan did. Omar did. And they'll be referred to you. And it's not even, you're not competing for business at this point. This is just, you're the guy. You're that guy. Everybody wants to have that guy. And if you do the business right, you become that guy. I mean, not initially because you have to build yourself, but you can become that guy if you do the right thing.
You do the right thing. And, I'll give you an example. I cover a lot of markets, and this is actually an example even on the agent side, believe it or not. It's the past clients, and the past clients, we want to be there forever with them, right? But even on the agent side, I'll give you an example. Here in Bronx and Westchester, I have a team, so I cover Rockland County, I cover Queens, I cover, in addition to Bronx and Westchester. But by having a good relationship with agents, I just got an $825,000 listing in Queens, which is a referral from an agent in Rockland County who likes the way we work, just because she's a little further away. And I got that referral. And you know what? If I was a bit of a jerk and I didn't have a great reputation to the agents in the marketplace, I would lose the opportunity to get that referral.
Well, let's talk about, we talked about this off camera. I had to bring it to camera. So let's talk about how I hear sometimes Westchester agents say that the Bronx agents don't pick up the phone, and vice versa. Sometimes the Bronx agents say, oh, the Westchester people. Why do people say that? Why do you think that is?
I think that, look, there's a reality is some agents don't pick up the phone, right? It's not the greatest thing, right? But I think that when an agent only does deals in their specific market and they don't push into the next market, then there's a lack of understanding on what the other side is doing, right? So it becomes a bit difficult to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Myself, in the Bronx, I'm in the Bronx, but I've pushed myself to do business in Westchester.
Right. I've seen you. You've been up there.
I've been up there. And you know what? When I started this career, I didn't know much about other areas of the Bronx besides where I've been to or where I lived, right? I didn't really know much about Westchester at all. I learned about a lot of these areas by doing business in those areas.
And learning the rules of engagement, and the taxes are different, and municipalities are different, and all that's different. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, with regards to ethics, there is a divide. I think that there's a divide where a lot of agents up in the more residential areas and higher end areas, they look at the agents in the urban areas in the city as less ethical. And that's
why do you think that is?
Why? Because there are a lot of lines that get crossed, and there are a lot of gray areas with a lot of the deals that happen in New York City, versus the deals up in Westchester, where a lot of them are done on the market. They're done on the MLS. There's a lot more transparency out there.
Okay. Why do you think that is?
I think the reason why is because the MLS did not come to New York City up until relatively recent, right? So I think that 40 years ago, agents did business very differently in New York City, and I think a lot of it was done pocket style. I think a lot of business was done like that, and when the MLS came to New York City and cooperation came to the business, I think there are a lot of agents out there who were not happy about that. And because of that, the mindset that they had from 40 years ago still stays today.
Hey, I think that New York City, and I'll say the boroughs, I think it's faster paced, right? But I will say this, on my personal viewings of houses when I was looking to buy a house, an agent can make or break a deal. They can be such an asshole that you want to just get out the listing. Like, have you ever seen that? I've seen that. I've had an agent when we're looking, me and my wife are looking, and they're like, oh yeah, I have this other listing. I'm like, we didn't even walk into this one yet. This has happened to me. I'm like, yo, I didn't even want to see the house anymore. But I want to say that because agents need to understand, like, did you look me up? I was like, what? I was like, I just want to see the house. Like,
So yeah, I think the problem is agents have egos, and their egos get in the way of them doing the right thing for their client. When you're working with somebody, you have a fiduciary duty to represent them, right? And I think that somewhere in the shuffle, that became lost to a lot of agents.
Okay.
And I think that there are a lot of brokers in the boroughs that
and there's so many small ones that you don't even know about.
There are a lot of small ones. And the problem is there's a big difference between a realtor and an agent, right? A realtor is a member of the National Association of Realtors, right? It's somebody who they have to abide by a certain code of ethics.
Right.
Then there are real estate agents who are not a part of the Association of Realtors, but they have a real estate license.
Right.
And typically you'll find those agents more common in the boroughs. And because they don't have to abide by a certain code of ethics, they have a very different view of what their fiduciary responsibility is to their clients.
And that sometimes comes from the broker itself, right?
It always comes from the broker itself. Right. Whenever I see agents, and a lot of times there will be like one or two offices that constantly have agents who are crossing the line, right? Okay. And if the agent, especially if it's a new agent, keeps doing the wrong thing, a lot of times it's not the agent's fault, it's the broker's fault, because
they're teaching him wrong.
A lot of us come into this industry with a blank slate. I came in the industry with a blank slate too. My broker said, here's all these buyers, go show them. I didn't learn how to pre-approve, but I thought it was the right thing because
that's what my broker said.
That's what my broker said. He's been in the industry longer than me, right? So I think a lot of the offices up in Westchester, the ones that have a realtor membership, I think that they hold ethics to a higher standard, and I think that's why they have views of agents in the Bronx, in the boroughs that way. Now, needless to say, there are many, many agents in the boroughs that are great, and they're very cooperative, and they do the right thing all the time for their clients.
I think the ones that don't, they eventually purge themselves, because you can only, that's finite. You can only do that trick so many times.
You only do it so many times, but you're going to be burning people left and right.
So based on this conversation, let's go into the next question, because you mentioned it yesterday on your Instagram, so I really wanted to talk about it because people don't really understand what that is. So what is equity theft? You don't have to name names, but just say you went to see a listing, right? Let's go into it. You went to see a listing and he had been approached by another agent. How did that work? You can narrate the whole thing and edit it.
So you want to talk about the situation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. So I went to a listing appointment, and there was it was an older man, 85-year-old guy, and I've been in touch with
This is in the Bronx?
In the Bronx.
Okay.
Yep. And I've been in touch with his friend who was kind of helping him through it and all that. He kind of stepped into the picture, and this was an expired listing.
Okay.
And
an expired listing is when somebody decides maybe they didn't want to sell the house. They had a contract with a realtor, and then it expired. They're no longer in contract with the realtor to work. Right.
Exactly. Okay. So it's an expired listing, and it was on the MLS as a short sale, right? Okay. So I think the price was like $215,000 or something like that, right?
Okay.
It was a short sale. So I came into it thinking, okay, well, this is a short sale. Let me see if I could help these people, right? So as I'm walking through the house and I'm talking to the guys, I find out that the house is actually worth maybe $600,000, $585,000,
so there's plenty of equity in the property.
Yeah, because the guy only owes like $430,000 on his mortgage.
Right.
So apparently, the 85-year-old man was approached by the broker who had the listing prior, who was working with an investor, who was prior to that arrangement was a client or somebody he had a relationship with, right? So they got the old man to sign this listing agreement and agree to do a short sale, even though he didn't have to.
So just to pause you there. So the lines of fiduciary responsibility have definitely all been skewed on this transaction, right? So you have a guy coming to a seller saying, I would like to represent you. And when you say you're going to represent the seller, you're supposed to get the most money you can for their property.
You're supposed to get the most money. You're supposed to give an accurate representation of the value of the property. That's one of our jobs.
Right.
Give an accurate.
So this guy engaged with this older man from the rip, knowing that he was not going to do that, and he already had a buyer who's already kind of coached him into saying, "Oh, if you help me with this, then we don't know.
I'll give you whatever.
Yeah, we don't know what the relationship is, but But so there are people that are taking listings that are off the top trying to mislead their clients.
Yeah, mislead the client so that an investor can buy the listing for a lower
A
price.
steep discount, right?
Yeah, so
Okay.
what you're doing is it's equity theft because you're the person, the seller who you're listing with believes what you say to be the truth because you're a professional. This is your field.
Or so you supposed to be.
Yeah,
Right,
you're supposed to be a
right,
professional. This is your licensed,
right.
you know, and so you're supposed to provide an honest evaluation of the property.
Right.
And instead of letting the seller know what the actual value was, he was telling the seller that it was worth $300,000 or $400,000 less than what it was.
Especially this guy's 85 years old. He probably
doesn't know better.
He probably doesn't know how to use a computer, right? He doesn't know friends that are or have family that can help him give him a real estimate to that. I find this particular scenario happening a lot. It's very prevalent in the South Bronx right now, and I mention it because I've run into it a few times where these larger brokerages are offering numbers to people that don't know what they have, and they're offering, oh, yo, we'll do you a favor, we'll give you $400,000 for it, and then they come to me and I'm like, yo, your property's worth 1.2 million in the South Bronx, right by the Triborough Bridge. I'm like, no, you're bugging. I was like, but they said, well, I inherited it, so I didn't pay for it. And I'm like, yeah, but still, you gotta get
You're stealing money because it's their money.
Get what you do, and that I think is what's happening. Or whenever we talk about gentrification, that becomes that whole big hot topic, right? Where they're like, are they getting what they're supposed to be getting? Is it not worth what it was worth? It's worth 2 years from now $1.5 million, and it's only worth $400,000 a year. It becomes very gray.
It's literally the same thing as you being a banker and you having the person has $1 million in their account and you say, no, you don't, you have 600,000, and you take 400,000 for yourself and you give them 600. That's literally the same thing. It's
Great
equity
analogy.
theft. And it's different when the investor approaches the seller directly, right? Or even if you're an agent and you approach the seller and you let the seller know, hey, I'm working on behalf of an investor to buy your property.
Right.
But if you're going to go to the seller and you're saying, I'm working for you, the seller, this is the best thing
Trust
for you
me.
to do, then it's negligence.
I think one of the first things they say is it's fiduciary responsibility is trust, and the other one is
Undivided loyalty.
loyalty, right? That was going to say, and then they were giving him vodka.
Yeah, they're bringing him bourbon.
Okay.
They're bringing him bourbon.
Because he liked it.
Because
right?
they like bourbon. Yeah, he liked to drink. The guy liked to drink, so they were bringing him bourbon and getting him to sign a bunch of papers. And
An 85-year-old guy.
85-year-old guy. He
keeping
doesn't
him
know
drunk.
better.
Okay. Good
He didn't
to
know better. And, I think they were offering him maybe $10,000 or $5,000, something.
So they're all over the place in terms of they're just breaking all the rules on this one.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the thing is that a lot of these situations happen, and they happen in the boroughs. And because of that, agents from outside see it, and then they get a bad taste in their mouth about agents.
Right.
here.
About it because they that one bad agent can basically
One bad
destroy
apple spoils the bunch.
Right? It destroys reputation
Yeah.
for a whole genre of agents.
Yeah.
So on that note, how important is your reputation to you? I mean, I think reputation to me now, especially with the prevalence of social media, has become its own currency. I use terms like social currency. I think there's a term I use called social credit. And, sometimes we talked about it a little bit saying that, if you do good work, it'll precede you. How important is that to you? And how do you go about protecting it?
Well, reputation is everything to me because money runs out. Reputation doesn't, unless you spoil it. And the only person who could really spoil your reputation is you.
Right.
So reputation is everything to me because I have bigger goals and aspirations. And if I'm going around screwing people, then I'm going to be backtracking on all the progress that I've made, right? So how I go about protecting my reputation is always to do the right thing, right? Mm-hmm. So one is my word, right? Mm-hmm. If I give my word to someone that I'm going to do something, then I do it. Even if it's a matter of me losing money, if I give someone my word on something, then I'm not going to go against it. As soon as you give somebody your word and then you don't follow through on your word, then that right away, that's the first blow to your reputation.
You're worth crap after that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Your value diminishes. So always do the right thing for my clients. 2, always do the right thing for other agents. I'm never going to bar another agent from my listings, ever. Even if the agent is somebody who did the same thing to me in the past, I'm still going to
let
let
them... Has it happened?
Yes.
Okay.
All the time. All the time. It's like,
all the time.
All the time.
Well, let me. I'm not asking you to name names, but how does it happen? Like, how does somebody bar you? Like, I'm not on the level of you in terms of real estate, but I have listings and they call and I say, yeah, we'll set it up. And you just take every call. You just hope to get a pre-qualification letter. So, the guy has a certain
I'll
chance.
give you an example.
Yeah,
I'll give you an example. I send the pre-approval letter, right? I send the COVID disclosure, which is what we use now, right? Hey, can I get into this listing Saturday at 2, right? Reaching out to him on a Tuesday, right? No response. Okay, reach out again Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, no response. Tuesday, sorry, there's an accepted offer.
So they never call you back?
Never called me back.
Right.
Never get back to me or anything like that. And I mean, it's.
You ever say anything like, hey, bro, I've been calling you for a week?
Yeah, I can call you for a week. Sorry, never got it. So it's like, and then the same agent, and a lot of times they'll say there's an accepted offer, and then like 3 weeks later, the property will still be on the market, 4 weeks later. So I think there are a lot of agents out there that intentionally bar other agents because they want to get both sides of the deal, and look, it's more money for a real estate agent when they get both a buyer and a seller. But if you're going against representing your client to do so, if somebody else is going to come to the property and potentially pay more for it and you're barring them, then it's illegal. It's illegal.
What people understand is that 100% is 0-0, right? So if you have a property on listed for 30 days, even if you co-broke with the deal and you get it closed in 45 days, then you shut and you go forward. You shut that deal, move forward, and keep going. They would rather keep it and I don't even know, covet the listing for 6 months. But even if you double in the deal, if you do the math, divide the time, you still lose.
You still lose.
But I don't think enough people know that. I think that because they only have that one deal. Right.
They want to hold on to. It's the agents that maybe they get a list. They don't prospect for business. Right. So they get 1 or 2 listings in a year, and they want to hold on to those listings for dear life and try to get them as much as possible out of that one listing.
And it's really all perspective because if the way I look at everything, I look at the win at everything. Right. So like, all right, I have a listing. You have a buyer. Great. Let's get it going. So we get it closed. Now all of a sudden we work well together, and I'll be top of mind. You see my name again, or vice versa. Yo, man, like we have synergy. That's the way people should look at it. When people are not looking at it, they think that, oh, I own this. You don't own the listing. You have a contract. You have a certain amount of days, a finite number of days to get this moved. If you don't move it, then you gotta what? You gotta fight unless you're gonna lie to your client, stuff like that. Say there's no offers, but like people don't understand that velocity of currency is very important. Like if you have no money coming in, you have no options.
Yeah, I mean, when I get a listing, my goal is to sell the listing in the fastest amount of time for the best price possible, regardless of who represents the buyer. Because even if I had an agent that screwed me over royally in the past.
Has that happened?
Yeah, it's happened, of course. I mean, it definitely happened. But even if I have an agent who screwed me over in the past, and that agent has a qualified buyer for my listing and I have no other offers on it, if I bar that agent from coming into my listing, now I'm putting myself...
You're spiting your nose. You're cutting your nose by your face.
Yeah, because I'm putting myself in the way of my relationship with my client, right?
And then you also talk about ego a little bit, too. It becomes the ego.
It becomes an ego thing,
right?
Yeah. Ego is ugly, guys. Ego is hideous. It's hideous. And excuse me.
That's okay.
I don't have COVID. I was tested.
Negative. So basically open market, right? So you don't have a preference. You deal with anybody. Now that you're going to different markets, like I think I told you a story about a deal I had in Queens and some deals I do in Brooklyn. I feel that every market is very different. Do you feel the same way? I think the Bronx is more like kind of people like know each other more a little bit. And I think Brooklyn is dominated by the big houses. I think Quicken grabs a handful, especially the high-end stuff. They grab most of those deals. I think at Queens, because of the different demographics and ethnicities, I feel like the smaller brokerages get to like invade those deals because just use like the Spanish brokers with the Spanish people, and I'm talking about Salvadorians, people that don't speak English and stuff like that. They have their niches. I think Queens is very much almost like like a melting pot of different ethnicities. I see it in the Bronx, like 233rd is a different. It's Caribbean, Pelham Bay was mostly Italian. Now that's kind of being gentrified. Meshuggah Parkway was Jewish, and now it's being changed. But I think Queens is the biggest one where I see like all types of shit happening.
Well, I think Queens has the highest amount of different languages spoken within like what, 20-mile radius in the entire world.
Wow.
So there's
Okay.
nowhere else in the entire world that has more different languages
Queens.
spoken than Queens.
Okay.
But that being said, I think Queens is a very similar market to the Bronx
Okay.
because it's New York City, right? So the property laws in Queens are exactly the same as they are in the Bronx
Right.
because it's New York City. And a lot of the way business is done in Queens is also the same as it is in the Bronx. Now, Queens has higher prices. I see lower commissions being paid out in Queens.
Yeah, I think the big experience what I've heard of is that I think the Bronx was paying mostly 3-3, right, splitting it, and then Queens started the trend of doing 4-2.
And now they do 1.5.
That's
3,
what I
1.5,
heard. Yeah, I heard that like Brooklyn's doing 1.
Yeah, well, now what's happening is you have a lot of you've had in the past 2 years a lot of agents from Queens coming into the Bronx and putting properties up at 3% and giving out 1.5. Now, a lot of the big Bronx brokers, especially the old timers who've been around for a really long time, are taking listings at 3% and giving 1.5 out. And now you see that going up to Westchester County. So it becomes more difficult.
That's like, all right, so before you go there, it's like, so they're becoming almost like discounters.
Yeah, discount.
Right?
Everyone's a discount.
How do you feel
broker.
about that?
I think that it devalues the industry and it devalues professionals as a whole because if agents are going to be making less now, then they're going to be providing less of a service.
I agree. I think what people don't understand is that because they're like looking at the nickels and dimes, they're missing the dollars. What I mean by that is that, you know, like if you take a listing for a full 6, you can stage a property. There's certain marketing
Elements,
expenses
yes.
that you're willing to incur because it's in the margin. But once you start cutting that out, then all of a sudden, and I think this is going to be a big revolution for like when Zillow, because Zillow just applied for their brokerage license.
Zillow got their brokerage license.
Right,
Now
right.
they're in our MLS. Yeah.
Right. So like, I think like everybody's kind of scared. I'm like, well, yes and no. For the people that only care about the minimum dollars, there's going to be like almost a tale of two cities, right? There are certain people, and I'm one of those people that I like paying more to get more. I like to not deal with shit. I like, yo, you handle it. That's why I pay you. You know, like I like that. But there's certain people offer, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna fix that. Bro, you're doing all that. What about your real job? You know what I'm saying? Like I think that's where you're gonna see a different division of clientele.
Well, with Zillow, do you want my opinion on Zillow?
Absolutely.
Joining the industry?
Yo, let's give it in.
Absolutely. So with Zillow, a lot of people don't know that Zillow charges a lot of different fees to a seller in order to list their listing. And most of the time, with all the fees that Zillow charges put together, it comes out to 6% or more in commission. So it actually comes out higher, right?
Really? Okay.
Where Zillow is going to succeed.
Just FYI, Zillow tried to get a mortgage banking license too. They got denied. So
And they get tonight, yeah. In New York, at least.
We kicked them out of that side.
They'll probably do it in Texas and a couple of other states, but not in New York. So Zillow, off the bat, charges more than what most brokers do.
Okay.
And where Zillow is going to succeed is that they dominate SEO.
Right.
So, for example, if you go on Google, you search real estate agent in no matter what city, the first company to come up is always going to be Zillow or Trulia, who Zillow owns.
Right.
Right. So what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be looking up real estate agent in Bronx or real estate agent in wherever.
And we're paying Zillow to be placed high in those markets.
Yes.
So what do you think happens to their own?
Well, what's going to happen is now Zillow is going to run ads in those markets where Zillow can list your home easily.
No agent needed.
No agent needed. And so what's going to happen is because there's already the familiarity with Zillow, those people who are searching on Google or whatever website, they're going to see Zillow's ad first. And now instead of just Zillow list of agents, it's going to be Zillow, we are the agent.
Right.
We're going to list your home. AI, exactly.
Right.
So they're going to click on that. And what's going to happen is they're going to fill out a form on Zillow. And that's going to be the business that Zillow gets, the searchers. It's very difficult for any agent to appear on the first page of the Google search results when somebody's looking up realtor in a certain county or a certain city. You're always going to see Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, StreetEasy, and then you're going to see some of the others like HomeLight and some of the other.
Well, that's why with social media, I think with all industries, I think they're trying to be pervasive in that way to create some sort of real estate online. Because Zillow going direct SEO, of course, you can't match them dollar for dollar, right? Like, I'm gonna talk off camera. JC, what does Quicken spend on mortgage ads? We did the math.
It was anywhere from 60K to 100K a month.
A month.
60 to 100K
per program, per one program. So VA, FHA, conventional, jumbo, stated. So they're spending millions of dollars, and that's why they'll be up top. But the problem, or not even the problem, but I think the real separator is going to become when, not all of them are cookie cutter. You're gonna have estates. You're gonna have, there's the tricky ones.
It's a small percentage,
Yeah.
and I think the agents who are really scared of Zillow, they don't realize that it's a small percentage. And I think that one of the fears that agents always have is they say, oh, well, look at Expedia. Travel agents went out of business. Well, it's very different. You could book a flight and a hotel in a matter of minutes. It's very different closing a real estate transaction.
Absolutely.
You cannot
so
replace
go wrong.
all of that with just an online program. Expedia makes it easy because it's easy to book a hotel or a flight.
Right.
It's not that easy to book to do a real estate
The
transaction.
human element is something that they,
It's always going to be there.
Yeah, you can't anticipate all the hooks, right? There's title clearance issues. There's so many different little issues that you need a human to kind of jockey the machine, because a machine can't do it by itself.
Machine can't do it by itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't think so.
What do you think that the young up and coming agents can do? I mean, I already know what I'm doing and what you're doing, but what do you think? I think the agents that are scared are the agents that are not taking action yet. I think the agents that are always worried about what he's gonna do are not busy enough doing what they have to do. That's my feeling. I don't know about everybody else, and I'm just saying what I want to say. What do you feel about that? That I've always felt that way. Like, you're so busy looking at him. Focus on yourself. Build yourself. Build yourself to a point where you look up, you're like, oh shit, here I am, right?
Well, what's my advice? Get out of your comfort zone, man.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of your comfort zone, because if you're going to stay in your comfort zone and you don't want to get out and talk to people, and you think that you're going to build this, even if you're going to be posting ads on Facebook all day, you're still going to have to talk to those
Eventually,
people.
you have to talk.
You're going to have to talk to them. Right. Eventually, there's no way around that, right? So you got to get out of your comfort zone, and the best way to insulate your business is to build that habit of prospect and follow up. Prospecting meaning reaching out to new people.
And it's not when you feel like it, it's all the time.
It's consistently, right? Like we were just talking about this before. Why do most agents fail? Because you don't have a boss. I bet you if you had a boss telling you what to do every day in real estate, your chances of succeeding would be a lot higher.
And the craziest part of that statement to me is that if there's no cap on your income, there should be no cap on your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Right? Like all right, what time do I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning now. I used to wake up at 4 when everything was normal, but now with COVID, I wake up at 5, I sleep in a little bit. I do my thing in the morning to kind of center myself. I stretch, I work out, I do my thing. I'm usually in the office by 9:30, 10 if I'm not running around doing other things. What's your day look like? Just to give people some sort of structure of what it takes to excel. Because people think, oh, all right, all I got to do is call. And it's not just that. It's so much more to it.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
So much. So can you give somebody a snapshot of your day?
Sure. So usually what I'll do is I'll wake up. Sometimes I'll go hit the gym. I'll usually meditate in the morning, like, for 15 minutes or so, just to kind of center myself, just let go of anything for the day before. And then now I'm doing this thing where I'm not eating until 12 o'clock. So
fasting?
Yeah, intermittent fasting. Okay. And I'm realizing I have more energy now doing that, believe it or not. And then at 8:30, I get on the call with my team and we do script practice. So,
I saw that, and you open that up to everybody.
And I have one on Monday, so I open it up to all agents.
Right.
So from 8:30 to 9 on Mondays, we script practice, and at 9 o'clock I get on the phones.
How many people are doing that usually with you?
It's usually about 20 to 30 agents every Monday.
That's cool. Okay.
Yeah. So I do that, then I do one with my team on Tuesdays. But we usually script practice from 8:30 to about 9 o'clock, and then I get on the phones at 9.
All right.
And if I don't have any appointments that morning, I'll be on the phones all the way until 12. I try my best to put the appointments, listing appointments and showings, whatnot, in the afternoon time.
So you don't interfere with that.
So I don't interfere with it.
Right.
Every so often, I do get those appointments in the morning. And in this business, if you erase, you must replace. So I put them out into the afternoon.
Greatest one-liners ever. If you erase, you must replace.
You must replace. So I think that the biggest challenge is on those days where I have appointments in the morning and I'm running around all day, and I get back in at 4:30 or 5 o'clock, and then it's like you don't feel like getting on the phones.
Yeah,
you're so mentally tired, you just want to pop a beer and relax.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really just getting up and saying, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get on the phones. I don't care.
Right.
And that's a challenge. It's a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
What's helpful is having a good group of people around you, like my team. My team is great. Like
Like a support group.
it's a support group.
Right.
So we all work from home now. We transitioned to virtual, right? We're all working from home. But a lot of times when we're calling, we get on a Zoom call together. So while we're all prospecting and making our
I
calls,
feel like we're working together.
yeah, we have a Zoom call in the background. So like, we can keep each other motivated. And,
Yeah.
so that helps. So if there's other team members calling in the evening time, it helps.
Yeah, it helps because you join the crowd.
Get that
Let's do
jolt
it,
of
let's do
energy,
it, right?
yeah.
You get a little emotion creates emotion. Noise creates energy. That whole
Exactly.
concept, yeah.
The way my business plan is set for the year is it all boils down to contacts, right?
Okay.
So to give you some perspective, agents, new agents, first thing you want to do is create a business plan for yourself for this year, right?
Have a goal.
Have a goal.
Right.
And I think a lot of agents don't realize how they want to create the business plan.
Right.
There are a lot of ways to do it, but here's the way I do it. I start with, well, how many weeks am I going to work per year, right? Maybe I'll go on vacation 2 weeks out of the year. Maybe I'll go to a conference 1 week. So I'm working 49 weeks out of the year, right? What am I willing to commit to every week, right? How many hours can I put in every week? Well, I can put in about 20 hours a week, right? Of dialing, 15, 20 hours, whatever it is, right? How many contacts will you make during those 20 hours that you commit to? Meaning, how many homeowners can you speak to during that time, right? So for me, it's 100 a week, right?
Okay. That's your number.
Yeah, 100 a week. How many appointments can you book with how many contacts you're making? Like, how many contacts do you have to make to book an appointment,
Right.
right?
Okay.
For me, it's 25%.
That's great that you know your numbers.
Yeah, right? So if I make 20 contacts, I book an appointment. Then, how many appointments do you have to go on to get a listing, right?
Right.
For me, if I go on 3 appointments, I'll list 1 property that same year.
Nice.
The other 2, well, they'll either list in the future, it'll be a relationship building thing, or they'll go list with somebody else, right? But I'll list a property for every 3 appointments that I go on,
Okay.
right? Now, how many listings do you have to take to sell one, right? I sell about 70% of my listings. The rest will either have issues, change their mind, etc. So I'll sell about 70%, right?
Nice. Okay.
What's-
Which is a very high ratio.
Yeah, so what's the average commission for your market? So the average sales price of $500,000 at 2%, about $10,000. Meaning, if I make 4,900 contacts for the year, then I will go on about 240 listing appointments, and I'll take about 80 listings. I'll sell about 56 listings at an average commission of $10,000. I'll make $560,000 if I just do the activities that I need to do.
Right. If I just stick to plan.
Yes, I recommend every single agent break it down. Now, the conversion rates, you're not going to know them up front, right?
I think the first 2 years you have to build that.
Yeah, I mean, after about 6 months of consistently doing it, you'll eventually know what your conversion rates are. Like, I didn't know my conversion rates up until maybe a year, 2 years ago. Really, like, hammer
broke it
down
down.
on them. Yeah.
Right.
My recommendation: start with talking to 100 people a week, 100 homeowners a week. Eventually, after 6 months, 3 months, you're gonna see how many appointments are you booking overall. Track it. How many listings are you taking? How many of them are selling, right? It might take you a year to find out how many you're going to actually sell because that takes longer. But once you get deep on these numbers, then you could build a predictable real estate business. So that's what I do for my business. I do it for every member of my team. We're looking to do really great big things this year. So I have every one of my team members on a business plan, and that's
So
how
they become accountable, right?
Accountable.
And they have goals that they have to hit.
exactly.
So it makes it a little easier because when you don't feel like it, you're like, yo, I have to hit that number.
You have to hit the number.
Yeah.
You have to do it. You have to do it. And that's why I say if you erase, you must replace, because if you're going to erase the time, you have to replace it in order to be on your goal.
Yeah.
And the hard part comes when you're running around on appointments and showings, and you got the whirlwind of activity that comes with
Text
deals,
messages, the emails, the this, the that. And
agents, everything.
Yeah.
And you're balancing that with your lead generation activities.
Yeah.
That becomes the most difficult part, because it sounds easy when you speak about it. 100 contacts a week, no problem. But then add on all the other stuff.
Add in holidays.
Holidays,
Add
yeah.
in pandemic.
Yeah.
Pandemic was actually good. I know there was a do not call thing thrown in there, but everybody was home. What I usually do on my side is I'm on the lending side, but sometimes I have to do site visits and stuff like that. So what's working out well for me, just for people out there, is that if I'm in the office, that day I'm in the office the whole day. Tomorrow I'm in my other office. Thursday I have appointments. Like I break it out that way. So if I'm out of the office one day, like for site visits, I try to boom all that day so that the next day I'm here like cooking. I use that metaphor. I'm cooking it, right? So I already got the food. Now I'm cooking it.
Yeah, you're cooking it.
I pushed the chains along, and then that's how I do it. And I live on my outlook. Like if it's in my outlook, it must be done. Like it's like that's it. So for guys that are like, self-starting and they don't understand, like, they don't have a boss, your outlook could be your boss if you're totally accountable and totally transparent with yourself. You're like, oh, I have to call this guy at 9:30. Even if you don't want to call the guy, even write that note out. Hey man, I know it's gonna be a shitty conversation. You gotta have it now. It's usually worse. It's usually worse the way you think it is than what it usually becomes.
Yeah,
right?
it's the law of diminishing intent.
There you go.
Meaning the more you sit in front of the phone waiting to call somebody, the harder it's gonna be to actually do it.
Yeah. And even what I've been more than a decade in the business, and you've been there 6-7 years. I mean, it's not luck. It's not magic. It's simple, but it has to be done, right? The work can't be replaced. There's no magic, program. There's there's nothing. You have to commit. You have to commit and do it every day, even if you don't feel good, even like, your wife threw you out or whatever. It doesn't matter. You got to do your numbers.
You got to do it.
Yeah,
you got to make it happen.
Yeah. So this is the blueprint we've just given you. So if you guys are new agents or new loan officers or new lenders or whatever, that's it. You don't need a boss. You just need your outlook. You need to get a plan. You need to be accountable to your plan. And then you do your metrics at the end of a quarter. And then you keep redoing it. I think we laid it out for them.
I think so too.
All right. So any questions? If you want to sell your house in the Bronx, Westchester, Queens, wherever, you can contact Bryan Dale at
thegoldteam.com, Instagram, Dale Properties.
Bryan, thanks for your time.
Lewis?
Appreciate it.